I just saved a bee, and my mouth is frozen because I had some cavities filled. But I was walking out from the dentist, and there was a bee on his back going crazy, and so I picked him up with my sun tanning glasses, and then I drove down, and I was gonna put him in the bushes here, so if he was gonna die, at least he could die in the dirt as opposed to on the cement, on the stairs where someone was probably gonna step on him. And I was taking a video of him with my macro lens, and watching him struggle for so long, I realized he's sort of struggling with this really small piece of fluff, maybe. I couldn't figure out what else was wrong. And I used to have these like medical tweezers just lingering in my car. Oh, I probably have them. I probably have them in the trunk, but I didn't think of that yet. So I took out a pen, and he was on his back struggling, so I was just like trying to pick this fluff off that I couldn't even really see with my eyes. I could only see it really with the macro lens, but I kind of knew it was there. And as I started to do that, I might have got the fluff, and then he started to struggle, and he was standing on his front and flailing instead of on his back. So I opened the door, and then I did it a bit more, and I was pretty sure I moved the fluff or got it, and then he flew away. He just flew away. So that was so great. I really didn't think I could help that bee at all. I just wanted to put him in a nicer place. But at least he got to fly. I don't know if he was fully better, but at least he got to fly away. And it was strange when I was doing this with the pen on his abdomen and where his little legs are on the bottom side of his body. He seemed to stop struggling a bit, like he knew something was trying to help him. So yeah, saved a bee. And that makes me feel good, because there was a bee that I tried to save that I accidentally killed last year. It's traumatic. I'm in a park, still frozen, and just spending a little bit of time earthing because I haven't had a chance to do any earthing today. Got a little bit of computer stuff done this morning, and then went to the dentist and saved that bee. Not sure what all that whistling is about. I should just blow my whistle in return. Someone's trying to call to their kid, but it's a really awful sound. Reminds me of The Sound of Music, when the guy's like blowing the whistle to get all his kids to come along. Like, I should blow my whistle like that to be like, okay, people who think they're crazy but they're not, come over here, let's talk. Let's figure out how to manifest a different paradigm together. Let's put our brains together. It's kind of what the world wants us to do, is to put our brains together to solve problems, not separate our brains into a million separate brains with all these millions of separate problems, which aren't separate problems, they're human problems. And last night I was feeling a little bit of something, maybe impending crisis related, but subtle, and it went away. And I talked to a friend last night on Skype and a friend the night before on Skype or FaceTime audio. So I've been very social lately, and I think it's cool to put the energy into being social with friends, because last time before I had a crisis I wasn't really being social. I was sort of isolated with my own ideas and plans in my own little world, but right now I'm not. Though when I go on my trip I will be kind of isolated in my own little world and things, but I'm not making plans, which is good. I'm not trying to do something or accomplish some big mission, and I'm connecting with the earth. And the dentist said that I might experience pain and I might need a root canal. I really hope not. I used to have this thing called a Josserciser, created by Victoria Butenko, but she moved to Russia, and I contacted her and she still has some, but it'd be expensive to get one from Russia, but she doesn't manufacture them anymore. But it helps to remineralize the teeth, so maybe I should try and get one, I don't know. But I'm gonna look up ways to do that because I really don't want a root canal. And not sure what else to say right now. Oh, I got my vitamins in the mail, which is good because it's a really hot day and they would have cooked in the box if it was there that long. Oh, and lately I've been hearing songs. I know sometimes people think that they write songs, like, oh, I wrote that, when really it's by like Lauryn Hill or something. But it really, I feel, for me, is more about resonating with that level of consciousness and knowing that there's a butterfly, that it's all one consciousness. So at the certain level where we feel like it's all one consciousness, we can identify with, I made that. But it's that level of consciousness that we've connected with, that high level of consciousness, which is oneness, created that. And it's all one field, and we have access to that too, and we could create something equally creative and valuable if we were able to stay in that consciousness without inflating the I ego and taking ownership of things. When we start to take ownership of other people's creations, that's a sign that our ego is trying to inflate itself. And it's not bad, it's just a mixed state. It's a mixed state of ego and oneness, of identifying with thought and identifying with the oneness of consciousness. So the mixed state creates certain traits. So for me, I heard a song and I Shazammed it, and it's called Manic, of all things. And the guy is saying like, the bad thoughts are getting stronger, or something like, the bad thoughts are coming in, the bad thoughts are coming in. So it's interesting that these songs are talking about certain things that I resonate with. And then another song was saying, I like myself around you, or like who I am around you. And I've been talking about that, like certain people I like myself around and certain people I don't really. I don't like how I manifest. Like the combination of my level of consciousness, or the consciousness that is channeled through this body and the consciousness that is channeled through that body, the mixing of those interference patterns as image holograms mixing creates a certain dance of myself that I don't like. And I can't imagine that another person yelling at me would like themselves in that moment either. So it's just not really a good dance. And so yeah, there's songs. And then interestingly enough, somebody asked me a question on my blog about lithium orotate, and then they were saying they're on Latuda, and I've never heard of that medication. But then I went to the dentist, I turned on the TV, the first thing that was on the TV was a commercial for Latuda for bipolar. So blah blah, it doesn't matter. That's not like, ooh, like some big fancy thing that matters. It's just there is a different operation of reality, which is something I was talking about with my friend yesterday. And it's pretty obvious. But what I need to realize, and I've realized, is it's not obvious to other people. So just don't be driven crazy by how obvious it is to oneself, and it's not to other people. You know, it's kind of like if one sees an elephant standing right there and you're like, look, it's an elephant. The other person's like, I don't see it. It would be kind of annoying if it was really there. And I think what I learned about that McGurk effect yesterday, it is coherent with what I've been talking to myself about, how in these states of consciousness, our brain starts to switch to processing visual information more than sound. The sound of thought, like, not thought isn't only sound, but I would like to say it's predominantly words, which are associated with images. But without the words, there'd be images. But without the words, if there were only images as thought, that might be something that has to do with autism. I don't know. You know, I'm thinking Temple Grandin. I think in pictures. Other people think in words, or most people think in words and pictures a bit. I don't have pictures in my head. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is it switches to visual. And we think we're seeing the world, but we're not. And then when the brain actually switches to visual and sees a lot more, it's a lot more information to take in. So operating based on thought and habit is something that helps the brain use less energy in a way, because it doesn't have to process so much. And that's not really a good thing, because if we were seeing things as they are all the way along, it wouldn't be such a big jump. When all of a sudden we start seeing reality, we start seeing actually this moment, then it's like this big jump in the brain, and the brain is actually energized by seeing what is. It gets energy, as opposed to wasting energy operating in habit, or limiting the energy that's available, operating in habit. The brain is a processor of light and sound. But just like the McGurk effect showed, when the guy is making a fa sound, but the sound is actually ba, we hear fa, so it changes what we hear. So if we see reality as it is, it's also going to change what we hear, which makes sense. And that could be one of the mechanisms that leads to voices, possibly, in that one goes into a perceptually, visually dominant state, and then when one falls out of it, the sounds one hears as an epiphenomenon is voices, our voices. I suck with the verb to be. I say is when I should say are, and I say what was where I should say were. Kind of looks like I've been crying. I was driving and then all of a sudden my left eye got so stingy and watery that I had to close it while driving like this. And that's happened a couple times in the last couple months, but I was never driving. And I was thinking, good thing that it wasn't both eyes, because I really had to close the one eye. And if I had to close both eyes while driving, that wouldn't have worked. And I was on a bridge where I wouldn't be able to pull over. So yeah, I'm wondering what that's from. Almost feels like the tears that I can't cry because I'm on medication. I don't know, I'm just making that up. But it's from my left eye, which is right brain, so my right brain is crying for some reason. And I'm at the park and my feet are on the ground, because today is kind of like a big decision day. Somebody that I know emailed me and asked what kind of support I need, because they know that I'm kind of coming up to a crisis time. And while I was replying to the email, I was breathing tense for 8 minutes, which I noticed afterwards. And then my heart felt this anxiety like nothing I've felt in months. And I feel like, oof, that's kind of like the beginning sign, like energy being released from the heart. And I leave in just over a week. It makes me feel like I want to be there earlier. And a lot of conflicting things are happening in terms of there's a rental suite up for rent right now, starting June 1st in a week. That is kind of ideal if I wanted to settle down in my favorite town right now. But since I'm going away for a month, partly because I didn't have a place that I like, and then I'm wanting to go away later in the year, then it doesn't really make sense, because I don't know if I'll really have the money. And even if I did have the money and enough to pay for that and travel, how would I move my stuff? And I don't even need all my stuff, so it'd be good to get like a furnished place, or I don't know. I think part of it was when I emailed that person who was asking what support I need, I was saying things like, I feel like if I leave people close to me, like I feel like maybe I'm leaving forever. Because all the times I've had a crisis, it brings me back to my family and friends. Even if I'm in one town and then I'm in the hospital, people come visit me. Or if I'm at home these last couple times, people are around. They don't really have a sense of what's going on so much, but there's people around. So if nobody's around, what if some real kind of scene gets created where the police show up because I'm dead or something? And I don't know if my heart is afraid of that, because it's now opening up to that sense of when time no longer makes sense. So it could be afraid of death in the future at age 90. The heart doesn't really know. Or when this dimension opens up of timelessness and spacelessness, it doesn't really know when things are going to happen. Well, of course, we don't know when things are going to happen. Nobody can predict. But it just feels like, oh, it's going to happen this next time. It's going to happen soon. But that's how it feels, because when the brain gets close to psychological death or the brain cells dying, the body responds, because the body responds to what's in the brain. It can't tell the difference. So if the brain cells are getting close to the process of dying back that I've talked about, dying to everything that I've sort of created in whatever path and linearity I've created in the last 8 months, then the body responds. It starts getting freaked out, you know, and the heart can feel like it's going to die any second for months, when it's just sort of the brain cells dying. So the part that's scary now, though, is because the process has started a little bit. It's like, will I even be able to get myself to where I want to go? Because once it starts really strongly, it can be impossible. And even when it starts really strongly, all this energy is released that makes drama happen around. So I could be kind of okay and almost leaving, and then someone yells at me, and then my brain stops working, and then I literally can't leave. I could just cower in a corner. So I'm just at the park earthing because of that stress that was released from my heart. And tomorrow, I'm supposed to go to this event, and this is when I shouldn't be doing things like meeting new people and stuff, but I signed up, so I might go. And I have to do some math on whether renting this place makes sense. I don't think it does. I think if I were to rent it, it would be a gesture of wanting to get away and get my own space. And I can do that consciously after this crisis is over. I might be getting into an energy where I feel a little bit desperate. So I'm going to start, you know, thinking, oh, I need this and I need a place and I'm going away at the same time and I need to plan for both. But I think I need to trust this process of going away into sanctuary and see what happens, even if it means that I die. I don't want that to be what it means, but it could be that what I don't need in my brain dies away, and from that point of sanctuary I can move on to the next thing unimpeded. And I don't know if that's true. It could be things are gonna blow up in my face, and there's a lot of ways that could happen too. So I don't know. Of course I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen the next second. So I have to realize that this fear, and I don't even want to call it fear, because fear would be separating myself from the sensation and looking at it, observing it, whereas I want to not create that duality. Not that there's an I that cannot create that duality. That doesn't make sense either. So language is part of what messes it up. And then I realized when I was driving, I realized to myself, part of what it is being afraid of words. So when I was typing to that friend, I was sort of afraid of the words that I was typing. Like, oh, what if some kind of tragic end happens and I literally get physically separated from my family and friends, when I'm wanting to separate myself consciously in consciousness, switching the energy of consciousness to be that is more upholding. So being in a high vibration in consciousness and then having stuff happen that's lower vibrations, the higher vibration of the environment will help to hold that. Whereas if I'm in a low vibration, say, and stuff's coming out, and then I get thrown a psych ward, also low vibration, even though being around peers who are experiencing that is quite healing and helpful. Being in that low vibration, it doesn't help, but it does help to be away from one's conditioned environment. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling the risk of what I'm doing, and luckily I do have my supplements. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna take some glycine. I have taurine tonight. It could be a slight chance that last night I took 3 sunflower lecithin instead of 5, and I took 1 zinc instead of 2. All the rest was the same at night, but I was taking a bit less because lately waking up is like hard. I don't want to get up, and there's been a time or two when I'm like, no, I'm not getting up. I'm going to sleep in 2 hours. It worked out because the event I was going to wake up for was canceled anyway because of the weather, so it worked out. But Usually I'd be up and going even if it meant I was going to be a bit tired. It feels like I can't get up. And I didn't like that feeling, so I took a bit less because I had to wake up for an online group this morning. So I gotta not go easy on the tranks, and maybe tomorrow I won't take the methylfolate. I took that today and yesterday. And I've been really social, seeing different friends, and now I can pretty much chill. Someone calling their dog, and the dog is really not smart. Just not responding to come here and see Daddy at all. Still really, really, really not responding. I'll press pause. So when I go home tonight, I'm gonna check to see if I work next Friday, and if not, I might ask to go a couple days early. Might be good to get there sooner rather than later, and there's a chance I might not get there at all. Could be bad. And I am taking 50 milligrams of quetiapine every night. It could be worth it if the vitamins aren't nipping this anxiety feeling to up that a little bit, because I want to get to where I want to go. If that weren't the case, then I wouldn't necessarily do that. So, yeah, and I was listening to something this morning. I think it was an interview with Victoria Maxwell and Chris Cole. And she was talking about taking medications helps her be spiritual, in terms of how if she doesn't take it, then she's a mess. So how can she be spiritual? And I'd like to say that I am on a resonant level with that, because I have to take medication, and I feel like, I don't know if it helps. It seems to help. And I was thinking about meaning as a sixth sense, or a seventh or eighth or ninth or 10th. I don't know. Whatever sense hasn't been considered yet, because to me, meaning is a combination of all the senses working in symphony. And we can perceive meaning. Like if we can really hear the sounds of the birds, or hear the sounds of anything, mixed with what's visual, mixed with what we can touch and taste and smell, and mixed with our body's orientation in space, and our sense of time and time passing and everything, all those combined, if we're really present with it, we can see meaning. It's everywhere, because they were talking about how depression is a sense of meaninglessness, or life makes no sense, and the brain is the organ that makes sense of things. But our senses need to be clear, not clogged with a terrible feeling that would cover everything over. And I'm not trying to say that in terms of how it's easy to block depression or stop it. It's not easy. It's near impossible. But maybe that's part of what's happening now, is my mixture of the sense of meaning of the trajectory I'm on now versus how I'm going to stop that. It's interesting, because usually life is going really well up to the point before it breaks down, and then I hit the wall and everything that I'm doing comes to a halt. But this time I'm doing well again, but I'm putting it to a halt physically, and physically moving away from it, hopefully before I hit the wall. So it's like saying I'm dropping this trajectory, because when it's going up and up and up, it feels like, well, this can continue on forever, and the universe and bipolar or whatever says no. it's all gone. You have to cancel whatever shifts you have, whatever meetings, whatever meetups, whatever groups, whatever plans, whatever trips. It's all gone. And good luck even trying to cancel it, because your brain's not even going to work well enough to cancel it. You're just going to barely be able to text someone and be like, I can't make it. And so this time it's like consciously stopping that trajectory that would say, I'm going to keep going along fine like this, and moving to peaceful space, saying, okay, now I'm ready to fall apart because I'm in peaceful space. I'm not doing anything. Go ahead and break my whole life apart, because I'm planning for nothing anyway, and seeing what happens. You know, because it's more stressful when it's going up and functioning well, and then all of a sudden it stops, and there were all these things in the next week or 2 or 3 or month to go and do. But when one has no plans and it breaks up, well, then there's no added stress and fear of that, and having to communicate with people about stuff. So I'm saying this now. I definitely feel in my heart that it's going to be a challenge. The universe might say, no, you're not leaving. And, you know, I could think of that line in a different way. And that's the thing. In this state of timelessness, when it starts, things can be interpreted in many different ways. So I just said, no, you're not leaving. So that could mean, that could be a line for when my brain feels like it's killing itself, like ending its life, suicide style, in a couple weeks. It's like, no, you're not going anywhere. You know, having my zap strap, gestures of safety to be okay, you know, and we'll see what happens. I really don't know what's gonna happen, and that's the thing right now. I feel like I'm not sure if I'll make it to where I want to go, and I don't even have a sense of a worry about will I make it to California later this year, because I'm worried about this next bit. And that is telling me that I need to worry about this next bit and not worry about my comfort for the next 3 years yet, because this next hurdle is a big one, and I've been planning for it. So not putting energy into getting some other dwelling, but putting that energy into studying my supplement regime. And considering my heart is being a little bit funny today, I'm gonna go home. I am going to check my email. I'm gonna study my supplement regime. I have quite a few things to do. So I really don't know about this thing tomorrow that I'm going to, but I will go. Unless I'm not feeling great. Because there was something I was going to go to a couple weeks ago, and then I needed to sleep, and then I was going to go to a shaman, and I needed to sleep. So it seems like, and then my psychiatrist kind of like, bye, good luck, even though you're scheduled to have a crisis. See you later. So the universe is kind of like telling me, you got to do this on your own. And anytime I do something lately to sort of reach out for help, it kind of freaks me out physically, like missing that thing before, and then the shaman, and now reaching out to a friend and saying, well, I might need help or support, and then getting anxiety. It's like, I need to be strong and not say that I need help or support. Maybe that's dumb. We'll see what happens. So yeah, meaning is a combination of the senses via some kind of symphony. Synchronicity is moving based on that. but it's something that it's an energy that we put out there that people respond to and come to us with the information that we need. So it's still something. When we're trying to make meaning out of our life, we do make the energy of meaning, which other people respond to by bringing us the meanings that we're looking for. Which makes sense, otherwise what are we supposed to do? Look in a book all the time? Well, I've done some earthing. Hopefully that helps a bit, and I'm going to go home and do some computer stuff and see what happens. Study the biochemistry. I have things like D-serine and SAMI and other things that are for if I feel suicidal. So I could experiment with taking some of those things for anti-suicide early to try and prevent that suicidal brain implosion. Not sure. We'll see.